"She could do much better than you," her mother sighed after I made my proposal. My girlfriend just gave a little giggle and shook her head in agreement. I said, "You're right." I took the ring back, walked out of the restaurant, and changed the locks that same night. The next day, she came home to find her boxes outside with a note, "Go do better." Hey guys, before we continue with the video, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like if you want to see more stories. Thanks. I used to think of my relationship with Sarah as if it were a startup. You inject capital at the beginning, endure the losses, and work 80 hours a week to keep the lights on, all with the faith that eventually the product will mature, the market will turn, and you'll finally see a return on investment. The ROI I was looking for wasn't money, it was just respect, a partnership. I was the safe option. That's what her mother, Evelyn, called me the first time we met. She didn't whisper it, she said it while sipping a glass of wine I had paid for, in a house whose mortgage I was paying for. "Sarah needs stability," Evelyn had said, looking me up and down as if I were a used Honda Civic with high mileage. "You're very grounded, James. You're safe. Every woman needs a safe place to land after she's had her fun." At the time, I took it as a weird compliment. I was 28, earning 6 figures in logistics management, and I owned my home. I thought safe meant marriage material. I didn't realize safe was code for unwitting ATM. For 3 years, I funded Project Sarah. I paid off her $10,000 credit card debt because it was stressing her out and blocking her creativity. I paid the lease on her car because she needed a specific brand to look professional in her work as a freelance social media consultant, a job that, as far as I could tell, actually cost us money. But the real third wheel in our relationship wasn't another man. It was Evelyn. Evelyn was a bitter divorcee who treated marriage like a hostage negotiation. She had married a rich man, divorced him, burned through the settlement, and was now living out high society fantasies vicariously through Sarah. And Sarah was terrified of her. If Evelyn said the sky was green, Sarah would paint the ceiling lime. The warning signs were everywhere. A month before the incident, I came home tired after a 12-hour shift. I found Sarah and Evelyn in my living room, surrounded by designer boutique bags. "Look, the little worker bee is home," Evelyn said, without taking her eyes off a silk scarf she was draping around her neck. "Hi, honey," Sarah said. She didn't even get up. "Mom's car is in the shop, so I told her she could stay for dinner. Oh, and we put the shopping on your Amex. My card was acting up." Acting up meant declined. "How much was it?" I asked, putting my keys on the table. "Don't be so transactional, James," Evelyn cut in. "It's tacky. A man should want his woman to look her best. You dress so plain. You don't want Sarah to look like she belongs in your income bracket, do you?" I looked at Sarah. I waited for her to defend me. I waited for her to say, "James works hard for us, Mom, stop." Sarah just adjusted the scarf on her mother's neck. "Mom's right, James. You could be a bit more generous in your attitude. We're trying to have a girls' day." I swallowed my anger. I told myself it was just stress. I told myself that once we got engaged, once it was official, the dynamics would change. I would be the husband, the head of the house, and Evelyn would be pushed to the background. I was an idiot. I decided to propose on her 27th birthday. I went all in. I bought a ring that cost more than my first car, a platinum band with a diamond that required insurance. It was a financial stretch, but I wanted to silence Evelyn's voice in my head. I wanted a ring that screamed, "I'm not just safe, I'm successful." I booked a table at Les Jardins, the snobbiest French restaurant in town. Reservations 3 months in advance. Jackets required. On the night of the dinner, I was nervous. The ring box burned in my jacket pocket, but when I pulled up to the restaurant to give the keys to the valet, I saw Sarah standing there. She wasn't alone. Evelyn was next to her, wearing a dress that was undoubtedly flashier than Sarah's. "Surprise!" Sarah shouted as I got out of the car. Mom was feeling lonely today, and I couldn't leave her home with a microwave meal on my birthday. I told the hostess to add a chair. My stomach sank. "Sarah, this was supposed to be a romantic dinner, just the two of us." Evelyn stepped forward, tapping my cheek with her manicured hand. "Relax, James. Don't be so possessive. You'll have her for the rest of your boring life. Let me have one night." I looked at Sarah. She gave me that puppy dog look, the one she used whenever she overspent or broke a promise. "Please, James, don't ruin the mood. Mom is excited." "Fine," I said. "Fine." The dinner was a disaster from the appetizers. Evelyn complained about the table location and sent back the wine, a $200 bottle, claiming it was corked. It wasn't. She dominated the conversation, talking about her ex-husband's new girlfriend, how tacky she was, and how Sarah was destined for great things. I sat there sipping water, listening to them plan a future I was paying for, but apparently wasn't emotionally invited to. Then came the dessert menu. This was my moment. I had arranged with the waiter to bring champagne. I took a deep breath. I put my hand in my pocket. My hand was shaking a little. "Sarah?" I said. The chatter stopped. Sarah looked at me, eyes wide. She knew. "We've been together for 3 years," I started, my voice a bit shaky. "You're the most important person in my life. I want to build a future with you, a real future." I stood up, pulled out the velvet box, and dropped to one knee right there on the marble floor. The restaurant went silent. A few people at nearby tables gasped. I opened the box. The diamond caught the light of the chandelier. It was beautiful. "Sarah," I said, looking up at her, "will you marry me?" For 3 seconds, total silence. Sarah looked at the ring. A smile began to form on her face. She looked happy. Then a loud, heavy sigh cut through the room like a chainsaw. It was Evelyn. She was leaning back in her chair, arms crossed, looking at the ring with a mix of boredom and pity. "Seriously, Sarah?" Evelyn said. Her voice wasn't a whisper, it was a stage voice. I froze. "Evelyn, please." "I'm just being honest, dear," Evelyn said, turning her gaze to Sarah, ignoring me completely. "Look at him. Look at this." She gestured vaguely at me, kneeling on the floor. "Is this really the finish line for you? You're 27. You're in your prime." She took a sip of wine and delivered the final blow. "You could do much better than this. You need a man who matches your fire, Sarah, not a man who balances your checkbook." I stayed on my knee. Humiliation washed over me like ice water. I looked at Sarah. This was it. All she had to do was say, "Shut up, Mom, I love him." All she had to do was take my hand. Sarah looked at her mother, then at the ring, then at me, and she giggled. It wasn't a nervous laugh, it was a complicit giggle. She covered her mouth with her hand, shook her head, and looked back at her mother. "Mom, stop, you're so mean," Sarah said, smiling. She didn't say yes. She didn't tell her mother to stop. She turned to me, her face flushing with shame, not for her mother's cruelty, but for me. "Honey," Sarah said, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper, "get up. You're embarrassing me. Mom is right. Maybe we shouldn't rush this. We're not even at that point yet, right? I mean, let's talk about your 5-year plan before we do anything official." She looked at her mother for approval. Evelyn raised her glass in a silent toast. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It wasn't a scream. It was the sound of a heavy steel door slamming and locking tight. The fog cleared. I saw them. I really saw them. I saw the thousands of dollars, the emotional labor, the constant disrespect, the safe option label. I saw 2 designer-clad parasites feeding on a host they didn't even respect. I didn't feel sad. I felt light. "You're right," I said. Sarah blinked. "What?" I stood up. I didn't brush the dust off my knee. I snapped the velvet box shut with a loud click. "You're absolutely right, Evelyn," I said, my voice calm, steady, and loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "She can do better." I put the ring back in my pocket. "James, don't be dramatic," Sarah said, rolling her eyes. "Sit down, let's just order dessert." "No," I said. "I think we're done." I pulled out my wallet, took out 3 $20 bills, enough to cover my share of the appetizers and the water I drank. I tossed the money on the white tablecloth. "That covers my part," I said. "Enjoy your happy birthday, Sarah." I turned and walked out. "James!" Sarah yelled. It was a tone of irritation, not fear. She thought I was throwing a tantrum. She thought I'd be waiting in the car, sulking. "Let him go, Sarah," I heard Evelyn say as I reached the door. "He's just trying to manipulate you. Tomorrow morning he'll be begging. Order the souffle." I stepped out into the fresh night air. I didn't go straight to the valet. I walked a block, taking deep breaths, feeling my heart slow down. I checked my phone. 8:15 p.m. I knew their pattern. They would stay, order the most expensive dessert to punish me, and drink another bottle of wine to celebrate the power they had over me. Afterward, they'd probably go to a club or lounge to gossip. They wouldn't be back at my house before 1 a.m. Evelyn would probably sleep in the guest room. I had 4 hours. I went back to the valet, got my car, and drove home in silence. I didn't speed. I drove with the precision of a surgeon. When I got to the house, my house, the one I bought 3 years before I met her, I didn't sit on the couch to cry. I went straight to the garage and grabbed a roll of heavy-duty trash bags. I started with the bathroom. Her lotions, her 7 different hair irons, the makeup that stained the sink. I threw it all in a bag. I didn't organize, I didn't wrap fragile things. If it broke, it broke. I went to the bedroom, her clothes, the shoes she made me buy, the vision board she had hung on the wall with photos of yachts and mansions, but not a single photo of us. Everything went into the bags. I worked for 2 hours straight, sweating, fueled by a cold, hard anger. I dragged the bags, 12 of them, to the front porch. I lined them up neatly. Then I went to the guest room. Evelyn's weekend bag was there from the last time she stayed. I threw it on top of the pile. At 10:30 p.m., I called a 24-hour locksmith. "I need my house locks changed," I told the dispatcher. "Emergency service. I'll pay double." The guy arrived in 20 minutes. He was a big guy named Jack. He looked at the pile of trash bags on the porch, then at me. "Bad night?" he asked. "The worst," I said. "Or maybe the best. I haven't decided yet." While he changed the front door lock, I sat at the kitchen table and wrote the note. I went through 5 drafts. I wanted to write a manifesto. I wanted to list every dollar I spent, every insult I swallowed. I wanted to explain exactly why she was a horrible person. But then I remembered Evelyn's voice. "He's just trying to manipulate you. He'll beg." Any emotion I showed would be fuel for them. Anger was tension. Sadness was weakness. I needed to be a ghost. I took a thick marker and a piece of cardboard from one of her shoeboxes. I wrote 3 words: "Go do better." Jack finished the locks. I paid him $350 in cash. "Are you the owner?" he asked, handing me the new keys. "Sole owner," I said. "The deed is in my name only. She was a guest." "Good," Jack said. He nodded toward the bags. Good luck, brother." I taped the note to the middle bag, turned off the porch light, went inside, and turned the deadbolt. It made a heavy, solid sound that sounded better than that engagement ring ever could. I went to the fridge, grabbed a beer, and sat in the dark living room. My phone started vibrating at 11:45 p.m. It was Sarah. Missed call, message. "You're being so childish. Come pick us up. Mom's car is still in the shop and Uber has surge pricing." I stared at the screen. The old me would have apologized. The old me would have driven over, hat in hand, begging for forgiveness for ruining her night. I blocked the number. Then I blocked Evelyn's, then her sister's, then her best friend's. I sat in the silence of my house. For the first time in 3 years, the air felt clean. I passed out on the couch. I woke up at 2 a.m. to banging on the door, screaming. It was the muffled, hysterical scream of a woman who realized the ATM had run out of cash. "James, open this door! My stuff is outside! You can't do this!" It was Sarah, and in the background, Evelyn's shrill voice. "I told you, he's a psychopath! Call the police!" I lay there in the dark, looking at the ceiling, listening to them vent their rage against the solid oak door and the brand new deadbolt. I didn't move, I didn't say a word, I just listened. Eventually, the banging stopped. I heard the sound of a car door slamming, probably a very expensive Uber, and silence returned. I closed my eyes and slept like a baby. The next morning, I woke up with a sunrise that looked sharper, brighter, and cleaner than anything I had seen in years. The silence in the house was absolute. No reality shows blaring from the living room, no passive-aggressive comments about how I chewed my toast, just peace. I checked the security camera footage while making coffee. The video from 2:15 a.m. was pure cinema. Sarah and Evelyn on my porch in the middle of trash bags, looking like 2 raccoons caught in headlights. Evelyn pointing at the door, her face twisted in a scream the microphone barely caught. Sarah crying, not the pretty single tear cry she used to get jewelry, but an ugly red-faced sob. They eventually loaded the 12 bags into an Uber XL and vanished. I didn't feel guilt. I felt like I had just surgically removed a tumor. I went to work early. I told HR there was a change in domestic status and removed Sarah from my emergency contacts. I called the bank and canceled the authorized user card I had given her for groceries, which usually meant Sephora. At 10 a.m., the receptionist called my extension. "James, there's a very upset woman in the lobby. She says she's your fiancé but doesn't have a badge." "I don't have a fiancé," I said calmly. "If she doesn't leave, call security." "She's crying, James. She's making a scene." "Then she's trespassing. Call security." I hung up. 10 minutes later, I saw security escorting Sarah out of the building. She was in the same clothes from the night before, makeup smeared. She looked up at the office glass windows searching for me. I didn't even look down. I kept typing. That was the last time I saw her for 6 months. I didn't just break up with her, I erased her. I deleted all the photos, threw away the furniture she had picked out. I repainted the living room a dark navy blue, very masculine. I started working out, not for a revenge body, but because I finally had the time and money to invest in myself. The fallout, as I later found out through gossip, was catastrophic for them since I had blocked everything. Information trickled in through mutual friends who couldn't keep quiet. First, the housing. Sarah had nowhere to go. She had burned bridges with her old roommates to move in with me and had no money for a deposit on a new place because she had 0 savings. So she moved in with Evelyn. Evelyn lived in a 2-bedroom condo that was technically maintained by alimony. It was small, cluttered, and radiated negative energy. Apparently, the golden duo didn't work well as roommates. Evelyn was a nightmare to live with. She charged Sarah rent, criticized Sarah's job, and her failure to trap me. Without my income, Sarah's lifestyle collapsed overnight. The lease on her luxury car? I stopped paying. The repo man took it 3 weeks later. She had to take the bus to her consulting gigs, which dried up quickly because she looked exhausted and desperate. But the real karma came about 3 months later. I was at a hardware store buying supplies for my new deck when I bumped into Jessica, one of Sarah's old friends. Jessica had always been neutral. She tolerated Evelyn, but clearly found the whole dynamic strange. "James?" she asked, looking shocked to see me. "Wow, you look good." "I feel good, Jessica," I said, putting a box of screws in my cart. She hesitated, then stepped closer. "Look, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but did you hear about the upgrade?" I laughed. "The what?" "Evelyn set her up," Jessica whispered. "About a month after you kicked them out. Evelyn told Sarah she needed to get back in the game and find a high-value man. She found a guy named Ethan, told Sarah he was a crypto investor or something." I leaned against the shelf. "Let me guess, he wasn't." Jessica winced. "Oh, he was rich, or pretended to be. Took them both out to dinner. Evelyn was drooling over him. He drove a Maserati. Sarah thought she'd hit the jackpot. She was posting all over Instagram about how she finally found someone on her level. And he was a scammer, like a real scammer. He dated Sarah for 6 weeks, convinced her to take out a personal loan to invest in his new coin, and then vanished. Took the money, ghosted her, and left her with $15,000 in debt. Evelyn is furious because he swiped one of her credit cards too." I felt a cold, hard satisfaction settle in my chest. "What a shame. Sounds like she's in a rough spot." "James," Sarah said softly, "she's working at a diner now. Evelyn is threatening to kick her out because she can't pay the rent." I shook my head. Well, she wanted better. Sometimes better is a steep learning curve. I paid for my screws and left. 6 months after the breakup, I was a different person. My savings account was healthy. My skin was clear. I was dating a woman named Maya, a pediatrician I met at a running club. Maya drove a beat-up Toyota, split the bill on our first date without even asking, and hated drama. It was the easiest, most peaceful relationship of my life. I hadn't thought about Sarah in weeks. Then came the wedding. It was the wedding of a mutual friend, someone from college who, unfortunately, stayed friends with Sarah, too. I knew she might be there. I almost didn't go, but then I looked in the mirror, straightened my tie, and thought, why should I hide? I took Maya. We looked great, laughing, holding hands, sipping champagne. I saw Sarah during the cocktail hour. She looked older. Her hair was dull. Her dress looked cheap and ill-fitting. She was standing alone by the bar, nursing a drink, looking around the room with anxious eyes. She wasn't the center of attention anymore. She was just a guest. She saw me. Her eyes locked onto mine, then drifted down to Maya, then back to me. I saw the recognition hit her like a physical punch. She saw the new suit. She saw the relaxed posture. She saw the happiness. She set her drink down and walked straight toward me. Maya squeezed my hand. "Is that her?" "Yeah," I said. "Do you mind giving me a minute?" "I'll go grab us more drinks," Maya said, kissing my cheek before walking away. Pure class. Sarah stopped 2 steps away from me. Up close, she looked tired. She had dark circles under her eyes. "James," she said. Her voice was trembling. "Sarah," I said. My tone was polite, professional. "You look incredible," she said. She tried to smile, but her lip quivered. "I heard you got promoted." "I did. It's been good." That's great, really." She took a deep breath. "Look, James, I know I messed up. I know I let my mother get into my head, but my God, it's been a nightmare. That guy Ethan, he destroyed me. I'm sleeping on my mother's couch. She screams at me every day. I miss the peace we had. I miss us." She reached out to touch my arm. I took a half step back. "I miss feeling safe," she whispered. "You were always my safety. I didn't value it until I lost it. Can we just get coffee? Just talk? Please, I'm drowning here." I looked at her. I looked at the woman who giggled while her mother humiliated me. I looked at the woman who saw me as an insurance policy, not a partner. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel like screaming at her or listing her crimes. "No," I said. She blinked, tears welling up. "What?" "There won't be any coffee. There won't be any talking." I checked my watch. "Sarah, you didn't want safety. You wanted status. You made a bet. You bet that you could find someone better than me. You lost that bet. You can't just collect your chips and come back to the table now because you're broke." "But I love you," she sobbed, a bit too loudly. People started to look. "You don't love me," I said simply. "You love that I paid your bills. You love that I took your mother's abuse so you didn't have to." I stepped a little closer, keeping my voice low but firm. "That night at the restaurant, when you laughed, that was the most honest moment of our relationship. You agreed you could do better. I'm honoring your wish. I'm letting you go find better. Don't insult me by coming back now that you've realized it doesn't exist." "Sarah, please." "Excuse me," I said. "My girlfriend is waiting for me." I walked past her and didn't look back. I found Maya at the bar. She handed me a drink and looked at me with a raised eyebrow. "Everything okay?" I looked back at the room. Sarah was standing right where I left her, wiping her eyes, looking small and defeated. Evelyn wasn't there to save her. Ethan wasn't there to save her. She was finally, truly on her own. "Yeah," I said, taking Maya's hand. "Everything is perfect." We danced the rest of the night. I never heard from Sarah again. The last thing I heard was that she moved out of state to live with an aunt because Evelyn finally kicked her out. As for the ring, I returned it the day after the breakup. I used the refund as a down payment on a rental property. It clears $800 a month in profit. That was the only ROI I ever got from that relationship. And honestly, it was worth it.